Hello, dear listener. I have something truly special to share. It's an exclusive invitation to join me in Mexico for an intimate and luxurious 3-day retreat along the beautiful Pacific coast of Zihuatanejo, taking place the weekend of the spring equinox, March 18th through the 20th. There's also an optional day to stay through the 21st for some special ceremonies that are happening in the area for the equinox. But the retreat itself is the 18th through the 20th, really an opportunity not to be missed. And I'm offering one lucky listener a discounted ticket on this weekend that I've just been loving into being actually for several years now as COVID and, everything. But when we conceived of building this place, our home down here, it's really what we envisioned, bringing people down here for retreats, for trainings, because we felt and we knew that this space was special. And as people keep coming down and we keep getting the feedback, how magical it is, we want to share it in a really intentional way. Be working with the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, water, the metaphors of the season. We'll set sight on a new vision for our mothering journey and creating a deeper connection to self and Mother Nature. So to win a discounted ticket, rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts. Screenshot it and DM it to me on Instagram at Dr. Gertrude Lyons. And remember, the most important thing to mother is yourself. Give yourself permission to take a retreat this year. And besides, who said mothers can't go on a spring break? I'll see you there.
This is a Soulfire production. Welcome to Mother. No, it's Mother. Welcome to Mother, the show where we can explore our inner mothers to actualize our greatest selves. Through interviews with incredible guests, live coaching sessions, and my own experiences, we're going to dive deep into embracing feminine values and reparenting ourselves. So be prepared to show up, hold space, and be mothered in a way you never have before, but have always needed. It's time we rewrite the Mother Code. Hi, and welcome to Season 3 of the Mother Podcast. Super excited to kick off this next season. I'm going to be doing a solo series throughout November and December. It's going to focus on gratitude, self-reflection, of course, the mothering journey, my journey, lots of cool topics ahead, but I'm super excited about it. You may have noticed also some updated artwork and description. This has been such a beautiful learning journey for me through this year, really just about a year anniversary also of the Mother Podcast. So this is very timely. I'm excited. And as I delve into this next series, I want to put out a sincere invitation for you to join me on the journey, of course, throughout it, but encourage you to reach out with questions, experiences you're having, anything about your mothering journey and rewriting the Mother Code. I would love to hear about. You can hop on Instagram and DM me at Dr. Gertrude Lyons, or go to my website and contact me there, drgertrudelyons.com. Always in the show notes, ways to find me. So please do. I would love that. But I'm continuing to, discover what's emerging, and what's emerging for me as I keep sharing, and how grateful I've been to have such amazing guests to bring their perspectives. To be a guest on so many podcasts has really just opened up a huge space for me. And I'm so grateful, and I really have become aware, of the power of podcasting and the power of sharing experiences, opening possibilities. And it's my hope this podcast is in service of something greater, right? I really want to be making an impact and supporting people who identify as women to love themselves holistically. That when we do that individually and really take that on personally, it's going to have a bigger impact, an impact that I think could really shift some broken paradigms. Certainly, it's my ideal to shift the disempowering patriarchal aspect of our world and paradigm toward a more conscious and sustainable world. I aim to deconstruct all systems that are in the way of us having the most powerful women experience we can have and rebirth from a feminist lens, really putting a nuance focused on the concept of what it really means to mother. So that is, my bigger hope and wish and dream as we sort through all sorts of beautiful, juicy topics. Let's jump right into today's topic. Today, we are talking about menopause. So that's a whisper into a microphone. Hopefully you heard me say menopause. And isn't it silly? Like, I honestly do whisper it when I'm talking about it, or feel uncomfortable, or notice how people are responding when I say it, because it's certainly very different from announcing that you're pregnant, or that beautiful aspect of your mothering journey that everybody celebrates, right? Because that's what I'm supposedly here for. But this is a whole different place on the spectrum and place on the continuum of the mothering journey, and it really is the ending of physiologically of a woman's childbearing years, which are startlingly brief in the lifetime of an average woman's lifespan, because it typically ends in a woman's mid-40s, which is about half of her adult life, which leaves us with if we're lucky, 30 or 40 more years in which to do something else, right? I'm going to be sharing some of my experience in what I would now consider my year experience so far in menopause, but certainly one of them has been to learn and discover, and I've really been on quite a journey this year, and it's really fascinating to find out that it's kind of a mystery in some ways, and there's been studies on why, if it's just a woman's purpose, which is one of my myths, that you're really only woman if you have a child or you can bear a child. And then after that, you're kind of done. And, that certainly has been the prevailing thought in the culture. But this has gone on for a long time, and it's more than just an odd thing. And I won't go into there's really cool stuff about why evolutionarily it has made sense for women to live beyond their childbearing years. But it certainly is not well thought of, treated very negatively. It's also not positive for women when they start their period, right? Like it's like, oh, you poor thing, or the curse and all the negativity that surrounds that, which is so unfortunate. But there's differences at this end, right? This is now kind of more of a, you're done for, right? And I found this quote from Freud, who is one of the early people to actually start talking about it, although it was pretty in a pretty negative way. And he said, "It is a well-known fact that after women have lost their genital function, their character often undergoes a peculiar alteration, and they become quarrelsome, vexatious, and overbearing." All right. And the medical community was similarly dismissive. Another gynecologist, and this was just in 1966, right? "The unpalpable truth must be faced that all postmenopausal women are castrates." How about that? Oh my God. And this is wired in us, right? I'm going to go into even more in a second episode about the history and some of the mythology, but I have to name some of it here, because when I talk about my experience that I've been having this year, I'm realizing just, wow, how much of this I've, incorporated into my thinking, into my wiring. And it's really awful. It's so upsetting. And I'm even just looking at this year upset with myself and how I've been embracing it with such fear and trepidation. But oh my gosh, these just are too much. Here's another one. A psychiatrist, David Rubin, in 1969, wrote in his book, Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Afraid to Ask, "Once the ovaries stopped, the very essence of being a woman stops." Oh my God. This is just crazy. It's crazy. Also, that postmenopausal women come as close as she can to being a man, or rather, not really a man, but no longer a functional woman. Wow. I mean, that's really about all I can say about that is wow. And I'm laughing, but I'm angry, and it's upsetting, right? It's just not okay. But if we're busting paradigms, we got to name where we've been and kind of what the truth is out there, and what my thinking was. Now, I can't say I was consciously thinking thoughts like that extreme. But, for the last several years, I've been aware that I've been in some phase of this journey because while I was still menstruating, I was having one of the other experiences in menopause is something called either hot flashes or night sweats. Well, I think I've maybe only had 2 hot flashes, but I have had pretty persistent night sweats. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But before I jump ahead to that, I just wanted to share what kind of going through this very mysterious, this very unknown, it's so not linear. And when you start reading about it, and I start reading more and more about it, it's like, well, here are some symptoms that some women experience. You may have some or none of these. You may have them for a little bit before your period stops and a little bit after, or you may have them for 7 to 10 years. Like that's in our, linear logical world, like that's scary. And I want answers, and I want someone to tell me what it's going to be like and how I deal with it and how can I I was falling right into all of that. Like, how can I get rid of these symptoms? And this is, really disturbing and upsetting. And it was literally a little over a year ago at this time that I have what I now know to be my last period. Hi, I'm so excited to share with you my 2024 Spring Equinox Self-Mothering Retreat that's happening this March 2024. And I would love for you not only to consider it, but to attend. But in considering it, hey, just knowing that you would be leaving cold weather, if that's the space that you're in, and coming down to just magnificently beautiful, warm, nourishing place of Zihuatanejo, Mexico. Zihuatanejo meaning land of the goddess women, and coming to really take time for yourself. Okay. And that I am learning more and more isn't just a nice thing to do or something extravagant or something selfish. It's essential. And I really want you to take it seriously, to consider, just think about what would it take for me to go. It's a 5.5-day retreat, getting from where you are, getting there, landing there, and then being in a space that is all about you. It's all about nourishing you. It's all about tuning into you, using everything around us, the nature, the food, the beautiful people, the rituals, ceremonies. I bring it, we really bring it. And we go deeper and deeper as the days go on, and we release, we let go, we bring in what is nourishing, what is empowering, what is that space of just really divine feminine energy. And we do it in the community of women. It's not for everyone. I will be honest, if the idea of leaving and not making it work, or it's just too hard, not for you. If the idea of, spending that amount of time inwardly focused and going to that level of self-awareness doesn't sound like something you're willing to do or put the time and energy into, then it's not for you. And it's good to know that, right? So this is for people who are serious about what it means to mother themselves, what it means to take time for ourselves, and that gift and what that gift can bring to us. It was originally right after my fall retreat. It filled right up, but now some people, it turns out, are not able to come. So I do have a handful of openings. And if you're listening to this and you're willing to take that step, please reach out to me. We can do a discovery call, or you can put a deposit down. I would love that. And you can do that by going to my website, www.drgertrudelyons, DrGertrudelyons.com. Go to events, and there you go. It'll all be there. There's a beautiful page there for you to explore. I look forward to hearing from you and then seeing you on my spring retreat. And they say that if you go a year without a period, it means you are officially in menopause. And so that is, is that an anniversary celebrate? No. Is that something that just kind of flies under the radar mostly? Yep. But not for me. I'm talking about it on my podcast, and I'm just starting to open up. And I have maybe for the last couple months been making a pretty significant shift toward opening to the possibility of this time in my life. And just the fact that after, a few months of not getting my period and thinking, this really might be it. I don't know. No one sends me a letter or tells me. And I cried. I think about 3 months in, or 3 or 4 months in, I said, I think this really probably is happening. And I thought about the beautiful journey and something that I've experienced since I was 17, other than times I was pregnant and whatnot, but it was a part of my life. And I went on a huge journey at that time to embrace menstruating and having my period and make it a sacred and special and beautiful experience that certainly isn't what I was taught or how it started for me, but something I feel very grateful, in all of this, honestly, and even to have an inkling that there's might be some possibility for something greater at this phase of my life in the curriculum with Sophia, Society of Femininity in Action, founded by Dr. Judith Wright. And it was the first time I had ever heard there's power in this phase of life. It's a whole new possibility. The ability and our fertility and all of that is so raised to the forefront and thought of in such positive ways. Whereas this in our current culture is kind of like you're done for. Just the quotes I read, you're at your end and, what's kind of really your point here. But really it's a time you can now, instead of all my energy focused on mothering children or mothering, much more specific things, I can broaden that. I can broaden my mothering much more significantly. And so I knew that possibility was there, but that seemed pretty big and possible. But all these things that were starting to happen in my body that felt very out of control, and not having any control over any of this was really starting to bother me. And I was starting to have and all this is happening during COVID, right? So I started gaining weight. Am I gaining weight because of COVID and I'm not active? Am I eating, but my body feels different? While I didn't do this as overtly consciously at the beginning, and I'm doing it much more so now, I started to have an inkling like, oh, let's bring into play things I know about and what I encourage other women to do when we're going through big experiences in our life. And that is to start embracing it. And that's what I've been doing. So just mourning my last period was a big part of that. Hi there, and thank you for listening to the Mother podcast. I'm Dr. Gertrude Lyons. And through my work as a professional life coach, I focus on exploring, demystifying, and democratizing the maternal power that lives in all women, because I believe that mothering is a transformational journey that all women can and need to take, with or without children. Don't believe me? Well, check out the link in the show notes for yourself. I've got downloads for women of all stages of the mothering journey. Remember to join me every other week right here on Mother, because together we can start a new conversation around modern mothering. Are you ready to rewrite the mother code? I don't know when I experienced my first night sweat, but I did know that I started doing acupuncture. And I thought, this isn't something I probably have to have. And I bet if I normalize the energy in my body, that I've only started realizing now, like, there's other possibilities with that, right? And I've really started to enter into looking at this whole journey as something to embrace and something to approach from, of course, the Western medicine perspective and understand it from a physiological, but that's only going to go so far, and it's probably going to be pretty maddening. So I've really started embarking on looking at it from a more holistic, a more spiritual, a more kind of esoteric way. And I am really just in these last, I don't know, I'd say month, maybe a couple months. I'd say since about August, when I was on my Women's Essential training, my Women's Elemental experience, that I've really earnestly over the last few months been directing my own personal work toward this. So once I started doing that, wow, things other than the doom and gloom of menopause are starting to emerge. I have found some beautiful books, and one of them is called The Alchemy of Menopause: The Journey of Stepping into Our Power and Becoming Who We Truly Are, a workbook by Kathy Skipper. I will put this in the show notes, and I am super excited. I just got it, but I've been dipping into it, and she has a whole workbook and a whole thing to go through regarding the alchemy of it, right? Like there's a change in my body happening, a transformation. So now it makes total sense for me to look at night sweats or hot flashes as heat, as fire. And when I think about the element of fire and a great transformation happening, it's like, oh, okay, there are signs of what's happening. If I choose to tune into them, I can find explanations about what is literally happening in my body, but I'm not as interested in those anymore. I'm not even as interested in getting rid of them as I am using them for my own development, for my spiritual awareness practice. And it's realize that I have this energy in my body. And I've been reading things about it being a Kundalini awakening, a Kundalini rising, inner transformation. And now it feels like a gift, to have something like this happening in me, and I can loosen up about it. And I think that's going to make a big difference too. And I'm curious to see how that goes, because I think feeling anxious about it and having felt scared and upset about the changes in my body, I think we're making the whole thing a bit more challenging than it actually needed to be. So I'm really taking this on much more so, shifting it from symptom base, taking care of the symptoms, trying to get rid of them, to how do I embrace them, and how can I, even though I don't know exactly how long it's going to go, but, in my own way, create my own rite of passage, and what am I moving into? And this is something I have actually been working on. And now I can kind of coincide it with my body and what's happening in my body along with it. Because this other aspect that this author brought to light was, yes, there's the literal like heat, hot flashes, sweatiness about it. But then there's the fiery emotions, right? So I think we've all heard, women talked about at this time as getting cranky and, anger flare-ups and all manner of getting bossy or bitchy and all of that. Of course, that's thought of as negative in our culture, but certainly am seeing huge other possibilities in that, and seeing similar to the hot flashes, but anger and fiery emotion flashes, going from being subjected to them, but transforming them and getting that there's a reason I'm feeling cranky, and that reason should be considered. Right. And had moved from the maiden into the mother phase, and now moving fully into the crone phase, which I'm going to talk about even more in the next episode, rather than, think of crone as like this old, haggard, dried up woman, but this is the age of wisdom. So reclaiming my anger, and this is something that's going to be really big for me in my growth work, and something I've been working on throughout my own journey in development. What does that have in store for me? And starting to embrace and kind of looking forward, to having more access to and having more of these, the heat of my body, the heat of anger really brought to the forefront and brought to light. So I'm letting go of feeling normal again. I'm just been smiling lately because I'm remembering what it was like when I was pregnant both times, and embracing every aspect of it, the whole discomfort of it as the experience of what it was. And I hadn't thought about that for this one in that same way until recently. For me, I think it speaks to the larger issue of our resistance, my recent resistance toward change and challenging emotions, my fear of being uncomfortable, my fear of my anger suddenly being more at the surface, and really shifting to looking forward to it. Menopause is the current phase I'm on in the mothering journey. And I love talking about it. And I'm hoping it isn't just like, for women that are much younger to already be thinking about like, that's a phase to look forward to versus a phase like, don't want that. And certainly enjoy every phase that you're in. But I think having a big heads up that this is also another really exciting phase in our women's journey is really important. Everything about Rewrite the Mother Code applies here, right? Mothering myself first in this journey, but also, looking inside myself, looking at my family history with it, what was wired in me, our cultural history, which I'll dive into more in the next episode. And, what's my potential? What's my potential in my mothering journey beyond all that? It just makes my heart sing. This is the stuff that isn't talked about, but I've been having such a gas on this journey. I'm super excited to have the opportunity to share it and hopefully have an impact for you. So wherever you are in your mothering journey, know that there's always more to it than meets the eye. And, whether it's literally through research, talking to other women, finding ways to have a broader aspect and expand any limited thinking and dispel any disempowering patriarchal views, beliefs, aspects of it so that we can have this beautiful, empowering experience. Thank you so much for choosing yourself and taking the time to listen to this podcast. As always, please rate, review, and subscribe to subscribe to Mother. It helps other people who need this message, aka all women, well, actually everybody, men included. I'm honored to have you on this journey in mothering yourself. Remember, change is uncomfortable, but it's beautiful, and it starts with us. And if you can't wait until next week's episode, follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn at Dr. Gertrude Lyons or at my website, drgertrudelyons.com. I'll see you next time.